Morning, Sue.
I'm kind of upset because this is our final recipe, but what I want to go out on, chicken curry.
Yeah, it's a great dish. I know it's something very common, but it's one that the kids absolutely love, so I thought it was worth putting in.
And this recipe will serve you well for different types of curries, will it?
Yeah, most curry sauces can work with various meats, so you could use lamb in this, but we use chicken thighs, which work really well. A lot of people just tend to buy the breasts. I think that's a bit of a shame because actually for something like this in a curry, there's a lot more flavour and it becomes a lot more tender using a thigh, especially with the bone in, where a lot of the flavour is also found.
And actually it's probably cheaper than the breast, isn't
Much
it,
cheaper,
as well?
yeah.
So what about marinating? I think this is quite an important thing if you have the time.
Yeah, if you have the time, marinate the chicken in some of the curry paste that you make. If you don't, doesn't matter. You can kind of fry off the chicken and add it to the sauce.
OK, well, let's find out about your paste. And how do you make your curry paste?
So we use lots of garlic. For this recipe, it serves 8 people. So 8 cloves of garlic, a thumb-sized piece of ginger, 2 teaspoons of cumin, some turmeric, coriander, some green chilies, some lemon, and some onions. If you have the time, and if you have a spice grinder, it does make a difference to grind your own spices. You can buy a spice grinder relatively cheaply or use a pestle and mortar. Again, that just adds more vibrancy to your dish. It adds a kind of freshness that you don't get with dried, pre-ground spices, especially if they've been sat in your cupboard for 3 years. That kind of little bit of cumin that's kind of festering away, it will have lost some of its flavour.
It's like you've seen in my larder. It's worrying. So what do? Mix that all together to create the paste?
Yeah, the easiest way is to blitz it all in the food processor. That works quite well with the onions. They release a lot of water, but you're going to cook all that water out. So don't worry about chopping it all and getting teary-eyed about it. Just whack it all in the food processor.
And how long would you marinate using that paste?
The longer the better, really. If you did it overnight, that's great. If you did it for a few hours, that's fine as well.
What about the rest of the ingredients we need?
Mustard seeds, some red peppers, some chopped tomatoes, some coconut milk, the chicken thighs, which we use skin on, bone in, and lots of coriander, as well as some salt.
So whilst the marinating's going on, what do you do with the rest of the stuff?
So you've made your curry paste, then use some of that to marinate the chicken with some of the lemon juice, and then you blitz the onions in with the rest of the curry paste. Then you add all of the curry paste into a large saucepan, which you can use oil or ghee is a preferable thing that Indians tend to use. So you can use butter if you want it to be a bit more rich, which we sometimes do. And then you cook the spices out. So really important to cook them until you get all the spices releasing their fragrances. Stir constantly to avoid sticking and burning. If the mix does become too dry, don't worry, just add some more oil or a splash of water and keep cooking. Then add the peppers, cook for a few more minutes. If you're doing this all in advance, often we make the curry sauce in advance and then cook the chicken later. So we just fry off the chicken, add it to the sauce. If not, just kind of fry the chicken in the curry paste and try and get a bit of colour on it. Then once you've done that, add the tomatoes, some salt, coconut milk, and simmer on a low heat for an hour to an hour and a half with a lid on and on a very low heat until the chicken is tender and starting to fall apart. Then finally mix through the chopped coriander and taste. Again, as I said in some of the previous recipes, really kind of think about whether it needs anything else. So if it needs more salt, add that. If it's too spicy for you, you can always add some more coconut milk or some yogurt. And if you want it to give it a bit more oomph, you can add some garam masala. So often I've seen Indians add the spices at the end. I always thought you needed to add them right at the beginning of the process, but garam masala seems to work quite well. Garam masala is basically a curry mix, spice mix, and you can add it at the end. It's quite peppery, and if you want to give your curry a bit more of a kick, then you can add that. And then, of course, adding more chilli at the end if you think that it needs it.
And what would you serve that with?
So we serve it with some basmati rice, and also we often make chapatis, which are really easy to make. It's an unyeasted bread. It's just a mixture of flour, salt and water, and then that's ready to go. Once you've mixed it, you can roll it out into very kind of thin pancakes and just fry it over a very hot frying pan. And then you've got yourself some nice chapatis.